Hi, my name is Jimmy Williams with NFL Draft Diamonds, and I have a stud corner for you guys to meet today. His name is Isaiah Johnson. He is out of Syracuse. Nice to have you, buddy.
Appreciate being on.
Yeah, obviously out of Syracuse, but at first started at Dartmouth, really established yourself there in the Ivy League before really shining at the FBS level, man. But if you don't mind, give start us out a little bit, introduce yourself, and tell us where you're from.
Like you said, I'm Isaiah Johnson. I'm from the Detroit area. I've moved around a ton in my life, so I really only ended up in that part through the later years of my high school career. So I was born in Mansfield, Ohio, moved to Milford, Michigan, was there for a few years. Then my dad's job, he works for General Motors. They actually moved us out to Switzerland, so I got to live overseas.
Really?
Yes, yeah, for three and a half years out there. So from about first grade all the way through third grade. Eventually got the chance to move back. Moved into Rochester, Michigan, which is about an hour outside of Detroit. Was there only for a year. Then moved around in the Metro Detroit area. Went to middle school in Brighton, and then finally in high school moved out to closer to Detroit in the Southfield area. So
Cool.
after
So,
that,
according to my notes, Detroit Country Day High School is
is
where you
a
finally finished up. Interesting though, bouncing around a little bit. You said your dad worked for General Motors.
yes, sir.
That's pretty neat. So I like that. Again, bouncing around a little bit everywhere, but ultimately high school in Detroit. You also did some track and field. When you look back at your high school days as an athlete, what is it that you remember the most?
Just like high school sports adds a lot to the high school experience. That's where you make some of your closest friendships. That's where you really have the most fun in practice and games. And getting to really, that's the big sports is part of the biggest part of high school environment, and just having those experiences and memories. I know all my closest friends, I played at least one sport with them, and things like that. And just it makes high school a lot more fun to be a part of a team and have a group of people to go to school with every day.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt, definitely feel you there. I mean, for people that have watched some of my other videos, I've shared that I have done some track and cross country myself, but I'm a lot older than you. Definitely not as successful as an athlete, nor as big. Obviously, we're looking at a very big guy, a almost 6'3" corner, which is awesome. That's not what I bring to the table, man. I'm only 5'6". So, anyway, um, so obviously you did some hurdles as a track athlete, but certainly football is where it was at for you. That obviously made more sense as the sport that you decided to pursue. So, what is it about football that you love so much?
I mean, I fell in love with football when I was like 4 or 3 years old. My dad used to watch football every Sunday morning. He'd make sure we were out at church early enough to make it to the 1 o'clock games, so we could sit down and enjoy some football. And so it was just one of those things where I fell in love with it really really early. I really love the physicality of it. I mean, as you've seen, if you watch my tape, I love to tackle. That's one of my favorite parts of even playing a game. Me and my older brother, who's 2 years older than me, we would go out in the backyard and just do one-on-one tackling drills every day, all day. That's what we spent the majority of our time doing. So, I mean, it was just always a part of my life. My dad played it. One of my older brothers played it. All my cousins and uncles played it. So it's just always been there. It was one of those things where I just felt like it really fit my personality. It fit exactly what I enjoyed to do on a daily basis. And so from then it just grew. Every year I got to play it. I didn't start playing tackle football until I was 9 years old. But once I started, I couldn't get enough, and it's been the same way ever since.
Cool. So, since you were nine, kind of nice there. Answers one of the questions I was going to give you, which is fine. But yeah, I mean, great that you have that, background. Obviously, you've been passionate about the game of football for quite some time. Ended up actually obviously going to the Ivy League, which obviously if you go to the Ivy League, that typically means you're pretty smart cookie coming out of high school. So, how was the recruiting coming out of high school, man? Was it always going to be Dartmouth, or did you have any other options coming out of school?
Yeah, so the school that I actually went to, Detroit Country Day, it's a really well-known academic school. So overall, you have a good portion of kids going through the Ivy League coming out of my school. I really didn't know about the Ivy League because my focus was football, and football, you're really more focused on the bigger schools, the Power Fives and stuff like that. But eventually, my junior year, Columbia um, offered me, and after that, like any college conference, once one school offers you, the rest start looking at you and showing some love. So after that, my senior year, towards the end of my senior year, all the rest of the Ivy League started talking to me, and I started actually considering Ivy League as a real possibility. So all eight Ivy Leagues were talking to me. Eventually, I got it down to Dartmouth and Princeton and made my decision between the two. But other than the Ivy, I had some smaller D2 schools out of Michigan, Saginaw Valley State, Grand Valley State, and Fair State, and then some of the academy schools also. So it wasn't crazy recruiting. I was a real late bloomer. You talked about your height. My freshman year of high school, I was 5'4", so I was a real small kid, smallest kid on the football team. And then just finally hit my growth spurt my senior year of high school, and even grew a little more once I got to college. So recruiting was a little slow, but I got my opportunities and made the most of them.
Gotcha. I'm in my 40s and still waiting on my growth spurt. So, anyhow, so yeah, you ended up making it to Dartmouth, which really, let's be real. I mean, you really established yourself there as an all Ivy League player. And so, when you look back at your time there at Dartmouth, talk about maybe perhaps some people that influenced you there the most, maybe perhaps even some teammates who impressed you along the way. So, talk a little bit about Dartmouth.
Yeah, so there's a ton of names that really come to mind. First is John Pupil and Jalen Mackey. John and Jalen, we both went on our visit to Dartmouth at the same time, and all three ended up committing there. That was just my group of guys. Those were two guys who, like me, were smart enough and intelligent enough to make it to the Ivy League, but they were football players at heart. They handled their business when it came to academics, but at the end of the day, they wanted to play football, and so we matched on that base level, and from there it was who could work the hardest, who could go the furthest. That was one of our dynamics. We were always challenging each other. We would always meet up at John's crib and play Madden and just talk a lot of cash. And so those two guys really made my experience at Dartmouth. And outside of them, when I first got there, we had a really good corner, Isaiah Swan, who had a chance at going to the league, who had great production at Dartmouth, and he kind of became my mentor. It's kind of a guy who I ended up following around because, like I said, he had the academics, but he was still a football player, which was, that's one of the things that's a little harder to come by in the Ivy League. You have a lot of guys who school's their first, and football is, a nice little second. But Swan, he really taught me a whole lot, especially on how to watch film, how to grow as a player in that aspect, and really expand my football IQ to the point where I could apply it on the field. And then outside of him, my coaches, Coach Stevens, rest in peace. He was a big influence. He was a guy who was so genuine and really cared about all the players who were there. He was a guy who really cared about you beyond football. He really wanted you to be able to make the most of your Ivy League degree. We had a tremendous help getting internships and things like that, and having people who were really going to support it because of what Coach Stevens would do. And beyond him, Coach Dwayne Brooks, he was our NFL liaison, our D lineman coach, a black coach who really knew how to take care and mentor the black kids who were coming into the program, into an Ivy League, into New Hampshire, where it's a little different than what you might have came from. So he was really influential. Then, of course, my position coach, Coach Sam McCorkle, a guy who really was focused on the details, a guy who really, really hounded doing the basics to the best of your ability and really focusing on that. He used to always say, know your opponent better than they know themselves. And so that was something that I took with me every year of football since I got to Dartmouth and throughout Syracuse.
Well, and again, really established yourself there as an all Ivy League player. And of course, the Ivy League did take a year off because of the COVID situation, which, for what it's worth, it did give guys like you an opportunity to have another year, perhaps at another institution. And so obviously you finished up your time there at Dartmouth and decided, you know what, I need to move on. I need to, keep playing this game. And you ended up landing at Syracuse. How did that happen?
Yeah, so um, coming at the end of my career at Dartmouth, I graduated. I got my degree. In terms of football, I felt like I had kind of gotten everything I could out of Dartmouth and really grown as much as that environment could allow me to. But I felt like I still had more room to grow before I take my chances at going against competition at the highest level. So I entered the transfer portal with three things in mind. I wanted to obviously up the level of competition. I wanted to go to a place that had a resume of um, developing corners and getting them to the NFL. And then I wanted to go to a place that still had the academic prestige that it wouldn't be that big of a drop off, or even in terms of a master program, it would match with what I wanted. So Syracuse was one of the first schools to hit me up. Nick Monroe, the safety coach who's now at Minnesota, I believe. He was the guy who was recruiting me. Real genuine dude, really, real smooth talker. Really a player's coach as well. So we started building that relationship really early into my recruiting process, and I could tell that they really had a vision for me and had an idea for me. And then from there on, I looked at their master's program. They had a master's in political science, which I did finish at Syracuse, and that was in line with my major that I got at undergrad, which was government. And so that was a perfect alignment. And in terms of competition, obviously they were Power Five, ACC school, and so that matched up. And then from there, it was a decision of whether I could really develop, and then whether I could fit the culture in the program. So in terms of development, the resume of producing DBs has been pretty good these last 4 or 5 years. You have Iffy for the Lions, you had Trill go to Miami, you had Cisco go to Jacksonville, and then Garrett Williams this past year go to Arizona. So a really good resume of DBs, and I felt like they knew what to do with my body type, and they were going to be a good program for me to develop in further. And then as far as culture, I went on my visit, met with Coach Babers, who's a real genuine guy. He's a guy who coaching is not just a job; it's a part of his purpose. He feels like it's his job to help raise young men, and so that definitely appealed. And then meeting all the guys like Garrett Schrader, like Garrett Williams, like Mikael Jones, I just clicked, and there was a fit in that aspect. And so eventually, I made my decision.
Cool. So definitely Syracuse is, like you said, very well established institution that breeds guys there in the defensive backfield. And really, bro, you really could have come out last year if you wanted to. I think even last year people were thinking, hey, this guy's got some of the traits that in the NFL's trying to bring in lately. I mean, obviously, uh, big corner, long arms. I mean, 33 plus inches, 80-inch wingspan. Maybe perhaps a guy who could play multiple positions if we needed him to. But I mean, certainly a lot going for you as a prospect. Some of the things that our scouts had to say, of course, very solid in his technique, often used in the zone corner, but certainly that doesn't say that you aren't very physical guy and solid tackler. So when you think about those comments, and maybe perhaps anything else, what do you feel is like the best you offer as an NFL prospect?
Yeah, like you said, I definitely have the ability to play multiple positions because of my size, and also just because of my experience. I played safety my senior year of high school. I played a, 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 a bunch of different positions at Dartmouth. Well, I was put in a bunch of different positions. Eventually, I only actually played corner, but I practiced at safety, practiced at nickel, practiced inside sometimes. So definitely that versatility is something that I have to offer. And then with my intelligence and ability to learn, it's one of those things where with the right coach, I'll pick it up quick. As also I showed when I transferred to Syracuse and was able to pick up the playbook very very quickly and get into the rotation and everything. And then, like you said, physicality. I'm a football player first, cornerback, DB second, and a part of the game of football is physicality and putting your shoulder pad on somebody. And so that's something that I don't shy away from. It's something that I love about the game, and it's something that I definitely feel like makes an impact on the game every time somebody wants to try a corner on the edge or something like that. And then
Gotcha.
other than that, just details. Because of my time through Dartmouth and just the coaches that I had at Syracuse, I've always been hounded on the details and watching film and being able to up that IQ and have it make up the gaps that there might be in any capacity. Things are definitely something that I feel like I excel at and can bring to any team or situation.
I mean, certainly an impact player who could hear his name called here at in next month's draft, which would be certainly fun. Maybe obviously a dream of yours, of course, and really put together a solid resume. A lot of great games, great moments. You mind sharing a couple of those with me, if you don't mind? Maybe best game, favorite memory, or anything along those lines. Can you share a couple of memories?
Yeah. So best game, I'll give it to this past season against Purdue. It was one of those games where we had kind of had two easier games before, so this was going to be one of our real challenges against a Big Ten team that we had gone barely beat the year before. And going in as the senior in the room, it was decided that I was going to be traveling with their best receiver, Deion Burks, I believe his name was, who was a guy who just the week before had gone for 100+ yards, taking a slant the distance. I think 75, 80 yards out. So it was one of those things where it was really a coming out party for me. It was a game where if I could perform, it would really solidify me and it would set the tone for the rest of my season. And so coming into that game, I traveled with him the whole game, and I put up real good numbers. Defended a few deep balls, led a one pass, had a big fourth down breakup that kind of sealed the game for us. That really just felt like a coming together moment and was setting my season off.
I mean, definitely set the tone for really the rest of your draft stock. Honestly, I mean, because I mean, your stock's been going up. Ever since moments like that. I mean, you ended up finishing up your time there at Syracuse and uh, got to one of these all-star events, man. You got a call to the Shrine. I can't remember if we called you or not, but certainly, obviously, the East West Shrine, an excellent opportunity to go out there and prove that you belong amongst the best. So, talk about your overall experience there.
Yeah, it was a fun experience. I was invited to it, I believe, 2, 3 days before the week of events started. So I was a late invite, but that just kind of added a chip on my shoulder. But the experience was great. The experience was great. Getting to meet players, former and current, getting to talk with the NFLPA to get to understand all the meetings and events they gave us to help us and give us advice in terms of what it means to be an NFL player and what the job looks like. And also, money talks are really big when you're about to go see amounts of money that you've never seen before in your life. So it was a great experience in that aspect. Also, the meaning behind it with Shriners Hospital and getting to know that you're also making an impact on the community and getting involved with people who maybe it was their dream to play football, but because of life or the things that life can do you, they just didn't have the opportunity. And so and then obviously the biggest part is exposure, getting to be around coaches and scouts, getting to be coached by coaches who are NFL coaches and everything like that is also great. So it was all around. I enjoyed myself. I was trying to have fun. It felt like the work you've been putting in is kind of paying off. So trying to really live in the moment and enjoy it was a big motivation.
I mean, it's definitely a surreal moment. I mean, let's be real. I mean, you're going to an event. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of people that are there who are really uh, trying to get to know guys just like you and whether or not they're going to be drafting them. Um, Give me a ballpark, man. I'm pretty sure by now you've probably talked to like most of the teams in the league. I mean, what was it yet at the Shrine? Are we talking like 20 teams or all of them or what?
I believe I only didn't talk to maybe two or three teams, and that was really because I had already had an interview with them before I had gotten a chance to go to the East West. But it was one of those things where every day they had set a specific block of time for us to get a chance to talk and interview with teams, and you'd go in the room. There would be a few teams, and they'd call you up and want to have a conversation with you. So every room we went in, I pretty much got a chance to talk to every single team, which was a great experience. It was tiring. You ended
It
up
is.
having to say the same answer a lot of times, but it was also just one of those things where okay, this is a chance for me to maybe raise my stock just that much more, or it just lets you know that a team is interested in you. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I just got finished with the Lions. Now I got the Packers. Now I got the Eagles. I mean, you're just kind of going through like, everybody there, of course. So, nah, yeah, I get it. Again, put together some solid work there. Also, I got invited to the NFL Combine, which is pretty cool. I feel like you did a pretty decent job. I mean, again, going out there, showing people that you're one of the best athletes in this upcoming draft. I mean, 38.5-inch vertical, 10.9 broad jump, some really solid numbers in that regard. What did you feel about the combine overall?
Yeah, like you said earlier, it was a surreal experience. It's one of those things where it was a part of your earliest dreams of playing in the league was also to go to the combine. And so getting to be there, the lights were bright, and it was one of those things where it's like, is this real life? Had to pinch myself a little bit, something like that. But no, I just tried to take it all in and understand that it was an opportunity, and it was also a dream come true at the same time. And so I felt good about my performance. Like you said, I put up some good numbers. And as far as position drills, being a bigger guy, I showed that I can move and that I can be fluid. And then I was able to show that I have some ball skill ability, catching passes and everything like that. So overall, I felt like I did what I needed to do, and I showed teams that I am one of the elite athletes in this draft class.
And did you do anything different at your pro day that you didn't do at the combine? I mean, anything else that you were able to showcase at that point?
Yeah, so I got to run the shuttle and the L drill at my combine and do the bench press. I felt like I performed extremely well on all three events. I don't know my official numbers. As far as bench, I got 12 reps, which is good for me and was part of my goals. And so I did the things that I wasn't able to do at the combine and felt like I performed. And then again, always position drills because at the end of the day we don't just lift weights and we don't just do cone drills. We play football. And so being able
Right.
to show my football skills again and show that I'm a smooth mover and that I have fluid hips and that I can get out of my breaks at my size is always going to be real important for me.
Gotcha. I mean, obviously, you've shown that you are one of the elite, guys at defensive back in this draft class. Is there anything else that you feel people need to know about you, Isaiah? I mean, anything maybe perhaps outside of football that you haven't shared yet?
Uh, I guess this is one that I like to share. I'm a big advocate of art, or I do art myself. I draw, and I also do some digital graphic design and digital painting, or I think that's what you call it. And so I like to draw. I draw realistic portraits. I draw cartoons. I want to make a comic in the future, and so yeah, that's something outside of football that I'm into.
So you just want to draw a comic, or you want to write a comic? I mean, you trying to
Both, I think
collaborate with
both.
some people, or what?
I definitely would collaborate just because from my research, making a comic and producing a comic is a very large endeavor, and it's something that is made slightly easier when you have a team around you. But as far as concept, the storyline, and the art, I would want that to be mine. So yeah.
Dude, all you gotta do is go to like a local Comic Con. Is all you gotta do. Go to a local Comic Con, talk to some people, give them your business card, whatever. You can make it work. So,
No, I'm definitely gonna have
um,
to make time.
uh, anyhow, man, we are coming up to our time, which is kind of fun to be able to just sort of sit down and talk to really one of the premier guys in this year's draft class. Obviously, man, I feel like you are going to end up getting your name called at some point in the draft. Don't know when, don't know by whom, but certainly, I feel like you're definitely a guy who's going to get an opportunity somewhere. But go ahead and just kind of close us out with your final thoughts. Tell these guys what they'd be getting if they took a chance on you and drafted you. So finish us out.
If you haven't been able to tell, I'm a pure football guy. I eat, breathe, sleep, love football to the death of me. It's everything I've always wanted to do, and it's everything I'm gonna put my whole body on the line for. So I'm a little old school. I'm that early 2000s. Grew up watching Ray Lewis and guys like that. So that's what I'm gonna bring. I'm gonna bring that passion and that violence and that level of chaos, controlled chaos, as Ray Lewis used to say, on the field. And so that's definitely something that people can look forward to in teams.
Well, I guess you're going to have to change your middle name to Chaos, Mr. Isaiah Chaos Johnson. Maybe make it into like a comic strip or something. I mean, you could probably work on that.
Uh,
But anyhow, buddy, uh, great talking to you. Want to wish you very best of luck. Hopefully, you have some party get together or something that you're planning with your family coming into April. But I do want to wish you very best of luck during this time. All right.
I appreciate it. It was great getting to talk to you, and I appreciate you wanting to get to know me a little bit.
Yeah, it's certainly fun, man. Take care.
Yeah.
Once again, Isaiah Johnson, defensive back, Syracuse. Check this guy out.